Why did I join the MSCs? I guess, okay, I'm going to answer another question with that. I think I got to a point in my life where I needed and wanted to belong to a tradition more closely and to be part of something. I needed the support of a tradition and a community to help me continue to grow and follow my vocation in life. I think that's what it was. I was drawn certainly to a religious vocation, but that came later, a bit later in life for me. I was in my late 20s. So I think that was a big part of it, was knowing that for my continued, I guess, flowering as a person, that I needed to find a community and a tradition that was going to support me and challenge me in my to live my life as I felt called. They were obviously much better than everyone else. It's a funny thing. I think the MSCs chose me, or the order or the group chose me in some sense. I'd have to say that through a series of experiences, I found I felt at home with the MSC charism and spirituality, and this felt right. I didn't know any MSCs when I was growing up. I had no direct contact, but when I did begin searching, a few experiences. One when I made a retreat with the MSCs at Douglas Park. A few things like that sowed seeds that made me sense within myself that there was a fit, a good fit with the MSCs. Look, I think a strong memory that comes to me is of my years in formation, the opportunity to do a novitiate in my late 20s, when many of my friends were very busy in the working world. I had the opportunity to step back and enter into this deep spiritual process. It was wonderful opportunity. And then in the years after that, the opportunity to do theology studies, which was wonderful for me. Yeah. Ministry, very fulfilling experiences of ministry. But another example just comes to mind is just recently I finished some postgraduate studies, a master's program in Melbourne, and as I reflect on that was just another wonderful experience to have the opportunity to study at that level and to just come to a better grasp of of the whole spiritual dynamic at the centre of our lives, I guess. Yeah, that's it. I'm very grateful for the community and the brotherhood. That's enormously important, and to belong to a tradition, a spiritual tradition, and our tradition is the heart tradition, and I find it a very nourishing tradition to be immersed in and also challenged by. And the other thing I'm very grateful for is our mission, the mission that is put before us and to which we're invited. The wonderful phrase we have, to be on earth the heart of God. I think it's a really beautiful mission, just the mission of just trying to communicate to people that really it's all about love, and that there is a God who is love and who loves us unconditionally, and that's kind of the beginning and end of everything. And so it's just a wonderful mission, and it's, I guess in that sense, it's not focused on any particular ministry or any particular work, that you can do that in a whole myriad of ways. In recent times, I'm gaining a renewed appreciation of Jesus as a real person, Jesus as a real man, a historical figure, a man of his time, of his culture, and I think deepening my appreciation and knowledge of him in that way has become a very rich source of spiritual inspiration, I guess, nourishment for me. So he's a real person, and then as the Jesus or the Christ of faith, then he's also, his spirit mysteriously lives on and is given to us as his followers, continues to inspire us. I think for me also, Jesus as a person, as a real person, reveals God to us, to me. I mean, God is a mystery, and God, we can make up all sorts of things about God if it's left to us, and we do. We make a God of judgment and a God of wrath and God of war and God of wealth and a God of all the gods that we make. But Jesus reveals the real God to us, I think, and that can really challenge our understanding or our images of God, which is what it's meant to do. But so the God that I have come to know or understand, not understand, but to know and experience through faith, is a God of love and a God in whom I have my being, we all have our being, and by whom we are held in love. And all that God desires is for us to know that and to live in that love, I think. In the MSc tradition, the language that was used was all about the heart of Jesus, and that's 19th century language. It's kind of, in a way, it's like a symbol of a symbol. You know, the heart really communicates humanness. If someone has a heart, it's the humanity. So I think partly what happened is that Jesus, over time, you know, it was more Christ and less Jesus, and he just, all the emphasis was on him being a divine being and risen and in heaven and all of this stuff, and being spirit, and so the tradition of the Sacred Heart, which is the missionary of the Sacred Heart tradition, it grew over the centuries, and it probably reached its peak in 19th century France and other parts of Europe, where the symbol of the heart, and they used to draw the heart externally and make statues, sometimes just of the heart on its own. So in the MSc tradition, the language and imagery used to describe Jesus was in terms of the Sacred Heart. But the symbol of the heart really was I think, essentially to bring our attention back onto Jesus' humanity, because I think that's what was lost. So Jesus, the human person, got very lost, and if you lose that, then you actually lose the whole lot, because Christian belief is that Jesus, you know, Christ is human and divine, and not one or the other. And so that's how I understand the heart tradition to have developed, and the Sacred Heart tradition. So that's what I mean when I said that it became a symbol of a symbol sort of thing. The humanity of Jesus had to be symbolised in his heart, and so I think today we would acknowledge that tradition, but that we have transformed it, we have modified it, and we would. I suppose the thing about a tradition is that it's a living thing and has to be given new expression in every generation. And I think today, I think it's back to a good balance. That the Jesus in the MSC tradition is a very much a human person, a real person, also divine, as Christian doctrine assures us, but we don't know much about divine. Human is what we know, and it's through the humanity that the divinity can be partially known. There's no other way for us. So that's what I think the Sacred Heart tradition really was about, and now we use heart language essentially to communicate that going to the depth of the human condition is the place where we'll find God. When I joined the Missionaries of the Sacred Heart, I was attracted to the order, amongst other things. One of the things that attracted me was the possibility of pursuing priestly vocation as well as non-priestly vocation or non-ordained ministry. But I presumed that I would be ordained, that I would follow that path. But as my formation progressed, I think what happened for me was being an MSc came more into the foreground, and the question of priesthood went into the background for me. And so for me, I feel called to be a brother, even though I've done theology studies, and some of the older brothers can't understand that because in their time the brothers and the priests went quite different routes. You know, the brothers went into the trades and the manual work, and the priests did the studies and went into that kind of ministry. But again, the times change, and we're in a different place and a different cultural context. So I suppose for me as a brother, I think I have perhaps more freedom in my ministry than my confreres who are priests. One of my great loves is music and music ministry. So without meaning it to happen this way, the fact that I'm not ordained frees me to be involved in music ministry and liturgies, whereas otherwise perhaps I'd be expected to be involved in presiding and those sorts of ministries. There's other aspects to the brothers' vocation. It's a vocation that has been in change for some years now, especially, you know, as the rest of the world has become more professional. The role of the brother and the identity of the brother is a bit foggy in many religious orders these days, especially where you've got orders where there's priests and brothers together. There is one aspect to being brother that I think is important, and that is to some extent brothers are seen as closer to the people than priests. Now, I don't know whether you want to print this or say this, but it's not the priest's fault. It's just the tradition that priesthood, the trajectory priesthood has followed is, you know, in some ways in the past priesthood has been elevated above the rest of us, above the rest of the people, to an extent that it has created a gap. And I think part of the brother's vocation and the brother's role, one of the characteristics of that is that perhaps they're seen as a bit closer to the people. But that's just the historical reality of it. I think people would accept that. But it's not the fault of the priests, it's just how things have evolved. Yeah, I would say that the same way is not right for everyone. The same way is not right for everyone. And that you have to discover who you are and where you're being called in the context of the culture that you're in. Now that sounds a bit abstract, but firstly, to not be afraid of whatever you feel maybe you are called to. And I don't think vocation is an either-or thing. I think it's just what's right for you and where you are being called, because that's where you will find happiness, and that's where those who love you, your friends and family, will see you thrive. So if it's right for you, it'll fit, and you'll come to life in it. So I think it's firstly, don't be afraid of what you might feel called to, whatever that is in life. And that's perhaps our biggest obstacle is fear. It comes in many forms. So yes, we have to take the risk, but I think the thing that makes it possible for us to manage fear is to realise that we're loved, and that whatever God is calling to us, whatever God is calling us to, that in the context of love, it's going to be okay. That God's not going to ask something of us that's not going to bring us to life. If we understand that, and we trust in God's love, then I think we'll find our way. Because I think fear is the big block to all of us in our lives, and living fruitful and joyful lives. It's a big time of change in the church and in our culture, but the spiritual hunger and needs, I think, are no different than they've ever been, nor will ever be. And so we need people, men and women, to live lots of different vocations, whatever they may be, that they are called to, and to try and live them as fully and fruitfully as they can, because the best advertisement is a human person fully alive. So I think that's as much as I could say. I think part of what the MSc tradition offers is that deep sense of rediscovering the humanity at the heart of the Christian story, the humanity of Jesus revealing divinity. And I think that the MSc tradition really honours that deep insight that it's through being fully human that our God has revealed to us. And I think at this time in history, Christianity, the Catholic tradition, is feeling the effects of neglecting that in our tradition at times. And some of the crises in the church at the moment, I think, arise from a neglect of the humanness that we need to embrace and learn to live fully in being God's people. So I think the MSc tradition really goes deep into that and embraces that. It's the charism, it's the spirituality of the heart, arising out of the humanness of Jesus, the heart of Jesus, that inspires the missionaries of the Sacred Heart and gives us our mission to share with others. I think the word missionary is a word that carries a lot of baggage with it, like most of our words, but and some very negative connotations come with it. Today, I think we would understand mission as an engagement with the world, engagement with people, wherever they may be. The going out to others and saving their souls, all those sorts of ideas. You'd have to go back and understand those in their time and in their culture to do them justice. I mean, we can very easily dismiss them today because they really don't make much sense to us anymore. But I think today we would understand being missionaries as engaging with people, going out, being with people where they are, where they live. And I mean, I think all Christians, all humans are called to be missionaries, really. So, but I think the mission is another. I suppose the other thing that has to be said about the mission is that we do have a conviction that in the person of Jesus, God has been revealed to us. And we find that a beautiful thing, an inspiring thing, a life-giving thing. And so we feel impelled to share that with others. And that's good, that's fine. So I don't think we have to be embarrassed about that. But we do have to remember that the best way to share it with others is by living it, not just by talking about it. And I think to the extent that we live that love, there's not all that much talking needed when it's lived really well. One of my great loves is music, and I think music has the power to express, communicate things that perhaps ordinary words can't. And I think music is powerful because it can give expression to the heart's journey, which otherwise can't be expressed, and it's really say in music in liturgy or in other religious music that people may listen to, through the journey of a song, the heart's journey is expressed in some mysterious way, in a symbolic way, and I think people can resonate with that, and then it affirms them and encourages them on their journey, and they can sort of think to themselves, well, maybe I'm not imagining it. I'm not imagining these spiritual movements that I feel in my heart, and it's just great. Music's great fun. Have you ever tried it?